Well, hello, investors and traders. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap, where we take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective. Each time we're asking ourselves what happened today and what might it tell us about the coming ones. I do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday. It's broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube. It's under the channel L.A. Little. If you haven't subscribed and you want to, just reach up there and do so. Anytime content's pushed, you'll be notified. I also do a show on weekly basis every Sunday evening, same time, same place. Just tune in and you can keep up with that as well. And then occasionally I pop in some new stuff like gold shares. I did, I think it was Monday, or I guess it was Tuesday, when something really looks interesting that might be beneficial to you. So as always, I encourage you to take a look at what we're doing. If you want to see more of what we do, then you can hit the click started button and you can tune in to more details of what's happening at a very reasonable rate, $15 a month on a yearly basis. So, you can see it doesn't take much to stay in tune with us here. Let's see what happened today, because, last night when we looked at the markets, we said, we were going to have a tough day today. We were probably going to trade down. It was going to trade down in Europe, going to trade down in the U.S. It was a fairly clear-cut signal. There wasn't much, dilly-dallying about it, and that's pretty much what happened. Almost 3% on the DAX. What I told you last night is DAX was going to trade lower. DAX trades lower. That's going to put pressure on us. That's what it did. Now, we had large-cap tech trying to bail out the market today. Took it almost to even. Actually did take it to even on the NDX at the end of the day, but then gave some up right at the end. Down 1% here, down 1% there. All right, S&P, Russell, pretty good hit across the board. A lot of that was in the financials in terms of the S&P 500. You had Yellen on the heels. She was talking about negative rates. Thanks to a member for pointing that out in the trading room today. Pressure was heavy on the financials, and this thing just could not lift as a result. Bonds setting new highs. The oil market, that's a late quote. Oil market was down big today, and that's actually one of the things we're going to want to look at. And then the Nikkei tonight down big again. That yen is really putting a lot of pressure on that market. So that's it for a quick start. Let's pop into the charts, and I'm going to start with the S&P 500. Now, when I said at the top of the show, I actually last night, that you can read these charts and they will give you signals. They don't always give you signals, but a lot of times they do. Well, tonight you get a signal. S&P 500, right? We're looking at the daily chart. Finally trades into the January lows. Look at the volume at those lows. Look at the volume at the lows today, gets underneath it, gets back over it. That's a test failure at the lows. What does that mean? You go under it, you have less volume, you test the prior low, you can't stay under it. What is that telling you? I mean, just think about what it says. It says that when traders get down here and investors, they're unwilling to sell more and more at lower and lower and lower prices. If they're unwilling to sell at lower and lower prices, what are they going to do? They're going to try to flip it around and go find where they're willing to sell again. Where should that be? Well, right there, what we were talking about last night. That's where they're going to try to flip it around and take it to. Now, that's the S&P. We have mixed signals, though. We don't have a clean set tonight. Sometimes you get clean sets like we had last night. Makes it fairly clear-cut what's in front of you. We talked about gold should go up. We talked about the DAX should go down. We talked about our market should go down. It was fairly clear-cut last night. Tonight, not so. Here's the Nasdaq. Now, the Nasdaq actually does not the same test, but a test. Gets underneath, right? So it trades underneath the lows here, has a little bit more volume. So that's not as clean. In other words, you test the lows, you get under them, but you can't stay under them. But you did more volume. So that's not a test failure complete, right? Because you got part of the test right. In other words, you got under there and you couldn't hold price. But you actually had heavier volume, which says, hey, I can go back there and do it again. In other words, I left enough volume down there that there's enough sellers, we may go back and try it again. So that says, okay, you got to look for more evidence. If you look at the NDX, the NDX comes down does basically the same thing but doesn't get to the lows. Does more volume, can't get to the lows, and it trades over that lows high. Now these, when I'm stretching here looking at these, because this bar is not nearly as significant as, say, this bar. So we have to understand the context of what we're looking at here. But it does tell you something. In other words, when you get down there, they're unwilling to get to the lows. And as I said, NDX had more buying power today because of the big cap tech. In particular, there was some strength in some earnings and some dividends and buybacks, in particular Amazon. And so it was stronger today. But it did test into that high by the end of the day. Couldn't hold it, but did test into it, did more volume. That tells me that more than likely tomorrow you're going to see this thing try to trade back into this bar, and that's going to be a big deal. And so let's set the table for tomorrow. You got this swing point low, right? That swing point low, you need to get over it. Otherwise, if you don't, and it's not on this chart, and actually let's get the number on this one, because you've already broke the swing point low here, right? You're trying to get back into it. The number here, though, is 39.92. Let's go to the weekly. It's not the NDX I want to look at. I'm sorry. Let me go back to the IXIC, which is the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq is the important one. And see, that price point is 43.13. And over here, we got 42.92. 42.92 is the key number tomorrow on the Nasdaq. Right now, you're underneath it. If you break it here, right, on the Nasdaq, if you break it here and you stay under it, that's a break on this time frame. It's also a break on that daily time frame. So we've got one here already. If you break it on the weekly, you got both of them. That can lead to an extended move to the downside. As a matter of fact, let's pull it back up, because you have the exact same situation on the S&P 500, and that is if the S&P breaks here, they're going to be breaking on that daily, and they're trying to break on the weekly. S&P needs to get back up above 1867 to get a save on the weekly. We close it at 29, so you're going to have to get a heck of a rally tomorrow to save this one. So coming into tomorrow, there's some slight, on the indexes, some slight notion here that we're going to try to trade higher tomorrow. Can they get it high enough? I don't think so, but it does look like they're going to try to get some sort of a push back to the top side. And finally, let's look at the Russell. I haven't looked at this one yet. Russell, well, that's kind of interesting. The Russell's trying to do the same thing. A break on the daily. It's underneath. It has less volume. So it breaks. And on the weekly, just an extension down. So, the big picture here is these markets are in trouble. On the smaller level, right, if we kind of narrow it down to, say, a few days, tomorrow it looks like it wants to try to trade higher, just looking at these indexes. But you can't just stop there. You got to go look elsewhere and say, okay, is there other indications that are going to tell us something? For example, the DAX last night and tonight is something that we should be looking at. If I pull the DAX up, the DAX is making new lows. I don't have volumes on it, so I can't see it, but it is under the lows. And on the weekly, we're definitely under, right? We're getting that extension down that we should. I saw Hong Kong down at the top of the show there tonight, but Hong Kong actually looks like it's going to try to make a save. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Hong Kong actually flips around and holds price tonight. So those are the two big markets overseas right now. Oh, and the Nikkei, we should look at the Nikkei probably. Nikkei blew everything away last night, and tonight it's going to extend farther. Yeah, I'm not sure why we're getting that print tonight. It's actually down tonight. So anyway, the print is lower. It was a break yesterday. If we look at, if we go over and look at gold, silver, those guys skyrocketed, of course. That's what we thought should happen last night with pressure on the DAX and so forth. And here's gold here. Gold makes a nice big spike up. I think it was up almost $50 today. It was one of the biggest moves it's had in a long time. And so, you had this big spike up, volume expanded there. You hung there. Now you get a huge spike up on big volume. And this could be a blow-off type move and set up at a range trade. So it's certainly not something you want to be chasing now, but it shouldn't be overly surprising that we got that sort of a move. The other pressure point today was in the oil market. If I look at the USO as a proxy, you can see it got underneath, back over. USO actually has more volume. I believe if we look at the WTI futures or the crude oil futures, we're probably going to see that volume lighter, but I don't know that. I haven't gone in to look at it tonight. And so that will be one of the things I'll look at in the morning and share with the members. So we'll see what this one ends up being in terms of volume on the actual contract, not on this ETF. If it's lighter volume, it's a failed test at the lows, complete, right? In other words, you got the volume tell correctly and you get the price correctly. If not, you got half of it, which is not nearly as strong, which says it can go try again tomorrow. So what do we have here tonight as we kind of wrap it up? You know, you had the S&P 500 fell at the lows. HSI fell at the lows. I actually didn't show it, but the XLE fell at the lows. The chips actually did break in transition lower. Big pressure was on the financials. They've already broken lower. And Europe not giving any kind of signal that it's going to trade higher yet. So we've got very mixed signals tomorrow. My inclination is that we're going to see the U.S. markets try to move higher tomorrow. I don't have strong evidence of that, but that does look like the read here tonight. As always, I ask you to share what I do with those that you know. Help me help you by spreading the word. Have a great night. Take care. I'll see you next time. Good night.